Hello guys and welcome to the PHP crash course. This is probably a great course for you if you start learning PHP. This course will get your feet wet in just very little minutes. This is just a crash course. So let me start with what exactly is PHP. A PHP is a server-side scripting general purpose programming language. A scripted language means it's a runtime. It runs on a runtime environment and it's suited very well with other programming languages. PHP stands for also PHP Hypertext Processor, or it can stand for Personal Home Page. It's an interpreted backend language. It runs on the server and it's created by Rasmus Lerdorf right here. So why basically learn PHP? PHP runs on various platforms like Windows, Linux, Unix. It's actually a C-like language, and it's adapted by tech giants like Facebook, Wikipedia, and even Tumblr. It's the most famous content management system, which is WordPress. It's built on top of PHP. PHP also supports a wide range of databases like MySQL, PostgreSQL, even NoSQL languages like MongoDB, and so on. So PHP is also free and open source. You can develop and that means you can develop your plugins, your frameworks, and your tools in general with PHP. So PHP is easy to learn also and runs efficiently on the server side. It's very easy to learn, not like the C programming languages like C++, Java, and C#. So how basically the web works? If you are a back-end developer, you should know how the web works. Basically, I'm going to talk about in here. So we have the client right here, which can be, you, me, anyone in the world who have a computer and he's trying to access the internet. First, he goes to his search bar and type, like, let's say, what happens actually when he types, he's asking the browser for some request. If this request, gets to a web server, let's say an Apache web server or any kind of web server, the web server requests, gets the certain page he's trying to get, and it gets to, the back-end language, which can be the PHP, PHP or Node.js. Node.js is actually a runtime, not a programming language, or it can be Ruby on Rails, which is a framework, or any backend tool right there. And the backend tool gets this certain page, which can be an information from the database, or a file like an image, or just sending an email. And let's say it's getting an information from a database. This information, gets back to the code. The server just processes the request or the information from the database, and it gets put back to the client right here on his browser. So what happens, it's just a request to the server, and the request goes to the code, which is the backend code, which can be any programming language, just gets back the information to the client again. This is briefly it. The tools we're working with on this course, it's going to be like 4 tools right here. Okay, the first thing is the server, which is going to be the Apache server, and the database, which is going to be like MySQL, the text editor, which is Sublime, and the web browser. I'm guessing you have Chrome already installed. So all of these, the server and the database will be included in the exam server program. Okay, an exam comes with the server, with the Apache server, and the database, which is MySQL. And of course, we're going to be working with the server Apache in this course. So what's basically a server? Let's discuss that. A server is basically a piece of program that allows you to run web applications on top of them. A server can be local or it can be global. a global server, like your server is a server you're watching this video on right now. You're probably in my landing page course and you're watching this on a global server. So for the text, for the database, we are going to be using MySQL, and for the text editor, a Sublime Text would do. But if you have any text editor like Notepad++, like Visual Studio Code, this also would be a cool choice. You know, any code editor would do. You can even use your Notepad, you know, on your Windows, but whatever you want is going to be really fine. This is all up to you. As a browser, it can be Chrome, it can be any web browser you want. This is also not mandatory. So now we're in the last page of our slide, and this is it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. Now we need to write our PHP. So to write PHP, you can start, you need to start the PHP tag. And there is a lot of ways you can do it. I'm just gonna go to the most basic and, you know, famous one, I would say, or most well-known one, which is greater than question mark PHP, and then you can write it from here, or you can just get some space, you know, whatever you like. But I like to get some space, you know, just to make the code more readable and all that. So now we can start writing PHP. So all I want to teach you in this video is just the most basic syntax stuff. So I'm going to write the most, you know, simplest line of PHP, which is the echo statement. The echo statement basically outputs something on the screen, okay, into the web page, and all we need to do, just write in echo and double quotes, and the double quotes are for the strings, you know, and we can actually use single quotes, but I will show you the difference between them in, you know, in the next lectures. But now we are just getting started, so I want to use our double quotes right there. Okay, and let me type any string right there. Let's say PHP rocks. Okay, and as any you know, C language like PHP, you know, to end the statement in PHP, you need to end it with a semicolon. If we don't write it, that will trigger an error. Okay, so it's PHP basically it's like C. Okay, basically built on it, you know. So we need to end this with a semicolon. Now we can end our script right there with a question mark and greater than or whatever, but we don't actually need that because we don't, you know, we don't have any HTML out there. So you can basically leave it like this. You know, this is really common, just leaving it like that, and Control S to save that. So let me do one more. Let me equal, let's say, a number, and for numbers you don't need any quotes, single or double quotes. You just type in the number, echo 9. If we want to print it, you know, on a new line, we need to do a BR tag, which is a PHP tag, and this basically will give you like with echo. Now I want to show you how document, and we need to end that actually, so our server can parse our HTML. Okay, let me tap that and tap this, and we can start writing PHP in anywhere in this HTML. Let me target, you know, the title, you know, question mark PHP. We need to go out, you know, let's say page title. me make it like this and terminate our statement, and in that, of course, we can change this all we want. PHP is a hypertext processor language. We can, it will parse HTML in the same page. PHP echo, this is our paragraph. Okay, that, and you can see now just like that. Then we, of course, we can write it down there. Now we can do some math. Echo 9, we're gonna do addition plus 8, and if you can, you can end this one, but you don't need to end it. But this one you actually need to end it because it will trigger an error. Okay, right in there. If I try out and remove it, what happens is PHP comes to execute the script, so it's going to interpret it, and so it's going to of course read it first. It comes all over down here and executes it each line, and when it comes down there, we're still reading PHP, so it doesn't understand what actually this means. Okay, so we need to write, but it needs to read this as an HTML, so we are going to need to end this right in there, so it can execute PHP first, and then it can execute HTML second. Okay, this one was so simple, just talking about the basic syntax of PHP. I'm going to explain what echo is, the different ways you can output something in PHP and all of that. The echo statement. Let me create a new file. Okay, now let me start my PHP right there. And what's basically the echo statement? The echo statement, or the echo constructor, it's just a method for outputting something on the screen. It can be used with single columns or double columns. Okay, and we are gonna take a look at those in the variable lecture. But now let's talk about, let's output something on the screen as we did in the last video. Okay, echo, and yeah, it can be used with a parentheses or not. So let's try the parentheses first. Now let me type in, let's say I can just type that out with coding. Okay, let me text right there, and we can simply remove that out as we did in the last video. And we can also echo out just PHP tags inside HTML tags inside the PHP statement itself. Let me use single quotes this time, and here is an h2 tag. This is a normal heading, and we need to end that h2, and that will basically print it out on the screen, but I need to echo out a br tag right there. Okay, so this is basically what echo is. In the next one, I'm going to talk about print and the differences between them, and what are the main differences between print and echo. So let me go to my file folder so I can there is our file ready right there. So we need to just write our PHP, and basically print is just an echo, but with some differences. Okay, so let me try some examples right there. Print, okay, and you can use it with the parentheses, you can use it with a semicolon, with a single quotation, sorry, you can use it with double quotation. So let me try double quotations, and let me write hello from Brent, and this is a semicolon, just a symbol print. And now let me do some math with it. Let's say 9, so this is basically it. And now to some differences between echo and print. So the most famous one is print is just an print has a return of value, so it can return 1 or 0, and that means it can be used as an expression. Okay, on the other hand, echo cannot be used as an expression. It doesn't return any value, it doesn't return 1 or 0, just like print. We can do an example of that. If I assign I want to assign every one of them to a variable, and we will see what the result will be. So I want you to think of a variable right now as a data holder. Okay, I'm not going to explain variables in this lecture. I will do it in the in the next lecture. So let me just write a variable right here, and basically you write a variable by writing the $sign and then the name of this variable, which can set it to whatever you want, but let me set it to var right now, and I need to assign it to print. Let me print something here, hello from var. Okay, if I end this, and let me do some PHP. So let me do some HTML tags right in there. BR, just like this. Just it can be used then as an expression, so you can set it to a variable or whatever. But if we try this variable 2, let me create another variable right there, and if we assign it to echo hello from variable 2, let me echo cannot be assigned to a variable because it doesn't return any value and it's not an expression. Okay, so this is obviously the first difference between them. Let me comment this out, and I want to tell you everything I know about comments in the next lectures, but all you need to understand about comments right now, that the code that's commented will not be executed. Okay, so select them and control and slash, just like that, so they will not be executed. Okay, so this is the first difference. The second difference is echo is faster than print. Okay, this is basically the second difference. The third difference is print can only hold one argument. Okay, but echo can hold more than one argument. And let me show you this with an example. Here is an echo hello. This is argument 1. Okay, and after this comma we are going to write our second argument. Hello from argument 2. Okay, if we let me take this printer. Oh, okay, I need to just, let me adjust that, and all we need just here to give it some space right here. We don't need this printer, only we need to give it just some space. This is called an argument. This this space after the comma right there, this is called an argument. Okay, but if we do this with print, let me try it out. I will just copy this. I don't want to waste your time. Okay, if we save it, if we refresh, you can see right here syntax error unexpected comma. So basically when the interpreter comes and try to execute this, this is print right there. It will only take this one argument right here, and it will see this as a typo. Okay, this is kind of weird or strange for him or odd, so it can't read it because this is print right there. And let's discuss what's basically a constant. So a constant is a name identifier for a value. Okay, it's like a variable in a way, but it has some main differences. It can be differentiated from a variable. So a constant, some differences are that the constant cannot be changed. Like its value cannot be changed. Okay, once it's defined, it will never be changed. Okay, this is the first difference. The second difference is you can access constant throughout your script. Okay, you can access them from your local scope or your global scope. Okay, this is it for constants. Now let's see how to actually write them. First you type in define, or parentheses right there, and this is basically will take 3 parameters. First of all, the name of this constant, and by convention we like to write it in all uppercase. So I'm gonna write the name constant, can choose any name you want, and the second parameter, which can be any type of value you want, an integer, a float, a boolean, a string, any data type you want, but I'm going to choose a string. Let's say this is a constant. And the third parameter, which is going to be like the case sensitivity. Okay, and this is by default false, which means that this is actually this is case insensitive right there. This is this constant basically is case sensitive, so we can leave it as this, or we can remove it like that, because it's actually by default false. Okay, we can end this statement with a semicolon, and now let's print out our constant. Okay, let me just get it. Constant right there. Yeah, a couple of other things to to remember, to point out about naming constants, that you can only use characters or our dash sign, okay, to write them. You don't have to use the dollar sign or any sign, only characters. You have to start with characters or our dash sign. Okay, so let me define, you know, let's say number. I'm gonna do just number, let's say 99, and let me echo it out. Just like that. Okay, let me do a print R right there. Write it like that. Just I want to show you that it's actually not case sensitive. So all we have to do is go over here and write our, you know, zero parameter. We need to turn this from false to true. We save this, go right back over here. You can see here is our 99. Despite the fact that this is in all uppercase and this is in lowercase, we can actually turn this like that if you want. Okay, this is in all uppercase, this is in all, you know, lowercase. It will print it right, it will print it as it is. It will print the value out of it because we turn this from false to true right there. It will be case sensitive. Okay, and there you go. What are variables, how to use them, how to create them, and why we actually use variables. So what are basically variables? A variable is basically a data container. Okay, everything, nearly everything you see on, you know, on web pages are basically variables. I would say it, you know, some of them variables, but some are not, because actually databases values are hold or are handled as arrays, which is in a way is a variable. Okay, but we'll talk about them later. But think of a variable, you know, for just a better explanation or a more simpler explanation, as a box. If you have a box, you can, you know, leave it empty like that, or you can put something into it. You know, you can give that box to the user. He can put something into it. You know, he can just leave it like that, empty. Just a simple explanation. Think of it as a box for handling stuff. Okay, and variables can hold a lot of data types. There are basically 8, I would say, but we're not going to talk about them in this video. Okay, we will leave that for another video. Today we are looking into variables. Okay, so let me just create my first variable right there. Basically, for creating variables in PHP, this is kind of you know, the PHP way of creating variables. This way is just for PHP, is writing or starting the variable name with a, you know, a $sign. If you don't start with a $sign, it will trigger an error. And after the $sign, you can put any, you know, you can put any character you want, or this dash, you know, this dash sign. But you cannot use, after the $sign, you cannot use any number or any sign, you know, any sign except the dash sign right there. Okay, so if we go ahead and our first variable, let's call it user name, and we need to assign it. So to assign it, we're going to use the equal sign, and we can assign it to whatever data type we want. Okay, for you know, strings, as you may know, you can use double columns or single columns as you like. You know, to do variables or to create variables. If you want to create some else, you know, some other variable or a second variable, you can set this to number, and we can use any number we want, and for numbers we don't actually need to use we shouldn't use these quotes right there, the single or the double quotes, or it will consider it as a string. So if we go like this and try to echo it out, just like that. I'm going to just echo a BR right there. So right there. So this is a string, this is a number. The two of them are basically symbol data types. Okay, symbol values, symbol data types as values or whatever. Okay, so this is basically it for variables. I want to point out about variables. They are case sensitive. Okay, variables are case sensitive, which means this one right there, this number right there, will be different from, you know, the capital form of it. Let's set this to 9, and if I go ahead, let me just copy this real quick. If I go ahead and copy this, it will print out this one, it will equal out this one. So I go ahead, there is, you know, 9 right there. So this is basically different from this. So variable names are case sensitive, and that means they're treated differently based on, you know, the it's capital or not capital, based on the form of them. Okay, and basically the difference is, actually, let me just create a variable first. Let me call that variable, you know, this tr, short for a string, and let me call it normal string, just right there. So the difference is, when you try, let me start with the single quotes first. The difference is when we try and output this one right here, you know, in our single quotes, let me say, actually, let me just try and echo it out. You know, I don't need to echo out anything, just the variable. So I just I want to echo out this variable right there, and you can see right there, here is the result. So the single quotes will just, you know, will print out just the string itself. It will not print out the actual variable. On the other hand, if we try this, the double quotes version, it will print out the variable itself, and this is called the second condition. It's called you know, variable interpolation. So the single quotes will only print out the actual string that's taken, or that's in you know, that's inside it, but the single quotes will print out the actual, you know, the actual value of this variable. And let me add any text right here. Okay, here is my, you know, here is my, and it will be, here is my normal text. It will take this as a text, but when it comes here to the $sign and anything that followed by it, if it's, of course, you know, a variable name, it will parse this out and echo out the actual value of the string. Let me just echo out a BR right there. And there you go, here is my normal string. So this is basically the difference between them. I just think it's really important. that you know it, data types. And this can be different, based on the language you're learning, but I think the most common ones are basically 8. Okay, but we are gonna take a look at the most common 5 of them. Okay. Oh, so variables can basically handle, or can have different values of integers. Integers. I think there is an A right there. Let me create comment. Integers, floats, or decimals, booleans, and strings. Okay, so these basically are the most 4 ones. Let me take null just right there. Let me close this out. So these are basically the most 5 common ones, and this one we are gonna talk about integers. And an integer is basically a non-float value or a non-point value. It can be positive or can be negative, and it consists of at least one character. Okay, so again, integers are basically non-point numbers. They can be positive or negative, and we at least hold or handle one number. So in PHP, we don't actually need to define which which variable will take an integer or which variable will take a float. No, we only define the variables like that. We don't need to write over here that this is an integer or whatever. This is like in C++, Java, and C#, but here in PHP it's really easy to write variables. Okay, you just write the name of the variable, and PHP will assign that variable to its type right away. So here is a basic integer, number equals 4. Okay, and if we go ahead and write our method, which is var dump, and it will basically get the type of this variable right here, and its value right there. It's really handy when choose another method, which is get type, which also gets the type of the variable right there, and it didn't print anything. I don't know why. Echo right there. It's a method, so it's not like var dump. Var dump can print it, and this is like another kind of method. It needs echo to print it out, so it can be written like that, or we can just put structure right there, so we can make it negative, and it's also an integer right there. So this is it for integers. They're really simple, as you can see, and in the next one we are going to take a look at floats. So now to floats. With a float is basically a number with a decimal point. This is it. Also can be positive or can be negative. So I'm here in my floats file right there. We write a variable, and you can name this whatever you want actually. So let me write 1.1 and use our var dump, so we can identify the data type for this variable. Now save. You don't actually need to create a file every lecture. You can put them in one file or whatever, but I wanna just keep the code for you. So will be float 1.1. if we change it like that to negative, and there you go, it's still a float, which is all about booleans. So booleans represent two values, just true or false. Okay, and we are going to talk in a bit of details about them in the control structure or section. Okay, just in the next lectures, but let's see some examples right now. Well, they only represent two possible values, which can be true or false. Let me try for done ball and go to my browser right there, and there you go, it echoes out true. So we can also try false, and this will basically print false right there. So that's basically it, and there are going to be a lot of them in the control structure. You won't use them like that. Okay, you will only use them, or 99% of the time will be used in the if statements or switch statements. So now to the most important data type ever, which is strings right there. Okay, so a string is basically a bunch or a sequence of characters, numbers. It can also contain numbers and signs. Okay, so let me try one right there, and can be put in single quotes or just double quotes, just like that. Okay, so this is just a string. Okay, and this is a semicolon, and our var done just right there. Strings, and there you go. This is just a string. There is the var done, just echo it out. So we can try one. We can add. This is just, we can add some any number right there. Let me just add a number so I can. So if we go and do another one, let me go string 2, and if we just use numbers, let's say 99, like that, let's echo it out, consider it a string. Okay, despite the fact that it's actually a number, just because it's inside a quote, PHP will consider it a string. Now to another short one, which is nulls. A null is basically a special data type that has has only one value, which is null. Okay, if a variable is set to null, that means it doesn't have any value assigned to it. Okay, let me create a quick one for you. Let me call it var equals null. You can write it like this in lowercase or in uppercase, all like this. Okay, if we var done this, okay, let me just I'm going to assign the same value for a normal string value. Let's call it string right there, and the same variable right here with the same name is going to be assigned to null also. Okay, So if we var dump this, save this like that, it will be also null. Okay, and that means that this variable right here doesn't have sorry, any value. Okay, so this indicates also that variables can be overwritten. Okay, just like that. If you want to change this value right there, you can set this variable to any value you want. Okay, just by writing it again and again, and so on and so forth. Operators. So operators are basically used to perform certain operations on numbers. Okay, and they can vary. There is a lot of them, but in this video I'm going to talk about, specifically arithmetic operations. Okay, just like basic math stuff that we learned in school. Okay, so we are going to talk about addition. Let me create a comment right there. Going to talk about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay, so let me do some basic examples right there. Equal 8 plus 8. Sorry, and you can tweak this as you want. You can do floats. There you go. And now to the next one, which is division or subtraction. Sorry, we comment this. Equal. Let's say 12 division subtraction. Sorry, 11. Go out, and there you go. Just one. And multiplication. We echo this out just real quick. Echo 12, let's say 20, duplicate 1. This will give us 22. And last but not least, division. Say 11. Let's echo it out first. 11 division 3. And this will give us a decimal number, just like that. Okay, I guess there is one more, which is modulus, which will give us the remainder of the division. Let me comment this out. Echo 9 modulus 3, and refresh it like that. It's there, it's 0. So this basically gives us, the remainder of the division of this, of this operation right there. Okay, if we divide 9 by 3, it will give us just 3. Okay, and the remainder of that will be 0. Okay, there is no actual remainder. If we try and change this to 4, let's see what it's going to give us. Only 1. Okay, because if we divide 9 by 4, it will give us some some decimal number, and there is only one remainder out of it, just like that. Assignment operators. And we've already talked about one, which is the equal sign. Okay, which means if we have a variable like this and we want to assign it to some kind of value, let's say 99, okay, it can be assigned just like that. Okay, so assignments operator are used to assign a certain value to a variable. Okay, so let me comment this one, and it doesn't stop, you know, doesn't stop right here with equal. We can perform some certain operations with assignment operators with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay, we go ahead and create a new variable. Let's call it x with the value 8. Okay, like that. And let's say we want to add, a value. We want to add a value to it right there without actually having to go and add it just like this. Let's say we want to add 9, and we don't need it. We don't need to add it right there. We can use some assignment operator like I'm going to show you right now. Okay, it will be x and addition equal, and this value we want to add to x right there, which is 9. Okay, or whatever value you want to add to it. If we able to go out x right now, will give us the addition of 9 and 8, which is 17. Okay, I'm still on my operators. Okay, I'm still my operators part, so all I have to go is to refresh just like that. And it sound a little complex to you at first. You can think of it like this. With x equals 8, which is the last value right here. The last value 8 equals sorry, not 8, x and the value we want to add, which is 9. Okay, just think of this as this. Okay, x is the new value. Okay, x now is an overwritten variable right there. So x is a new variable. This x right there is the old variable, which contains 8, and now the value we want to add it just like that. Okay, so this is a short or a simplified version for this one. Okay, we want to comment this. Let's actually comment all of this. You know what, we need the x right there, so let me just comment this. And now if we go ahead and perform subtraction, x subtraction equal, let's say 3, and this will comment out 5, just like that. So it's like basically it's like addition. What we're seeing here, subtract this to 3. Okay, so for the second one, which is multiplication, we have to do it just write x multiplicate the old value for x, which is 8, let's say to 12. Okay, and basically print it out just like that. And 96. Okay, to the last one. What do we have? Yeah, like that, division. Let me comment this out. And x divide equals yeah, it was 8. Let's divide it to 8 so it can give us 1. Of course, you can choose any number you want. If you want to add the space, that's okay. It's actually more human readable. Will give us 1. Okay, so as I said earlier, think of division, multiplication, subtraction, it will think of them like that. At x, okay, equals the old x divided by this value right there. Okay, so it's this easy, as you can see it. Comparison operators, and comparison operators are used to compare between two numbers and strings actually, but we are going to experience this these operators today just with numbers. Okay, so to make the comparison work, we need to create two variables like this. Okay, so I'm going to set this 10, and the second one, which we are going to call it y, let's set it in 9. Okay, just very basic and simple. And now let's talk about our comparison operators. The first one is equal, second one is identical, the third one is not equal, greater than, and less than. Okay, you will actually most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, will use them in the control structure or the if statements, just to verify, or if there is some certain operation you're working on, want to verify something is bigger than or less than or equal or something like that, you will use them there, definitely. Okay, so let me choose my variable so I can test on the operation. Okay, and we want to use our equal just to verify if x and y are equal or not. And let's say what's actually the result. Okay, equal y, and let me save, refresh, and you can see right here it's boolean false, and that's because obviously x is 10 and y is 9. Okay, but if we will go and change y to 10, will give us a boolean true. Remember when we talked about boolean, we only have two possible values, just true or false, and Vardam can execute this expression really easy. Okay, let me go back and change this to 9 because we are gonna use it again. Now to the identical one, we go and use it just like that and refresh it. Also it is false, and of course it should be false. And the identical one means the difference between the identical and the equal. The identical means it's they're the same in the value and the data type, of course, and they're not even equal in the value. If we give it 10 again and refresh, of course, yeah, it's actually true, and should be true because the both of them are numbers. Okay, this is a data type and both of them are the same value, which is 10. Okay, but if we change this to a string, if we put some single quotes or or double quotes, every one of them is true or valid right here, it will give us false. Okay, can you see that? Because they're now equal in the value itself, but they're not equal in the data type. Now y is just just a string, and we can verify that if we echo out get type. I guess we did that in some video, but I need just emphasize it for you. If we get the type of y, we can see now it's a string. Okay, there you go. Now it's a string. Okay, So this is basically the difference between the equal and the identical. Now to the not equal, I need to get this back to 9. Okay. Now to the not equal sign, now let's see what will give us, and it's giving us true, of course, because x doesn't equal 9, it's 10, and this is 9, and the greater than, let's say that, and it's still true because x is greater than y. Okay, the less than, our last comparison operator right there. If we save it and refresh, and of course it's false because x is 10, y is 9. Okay, so this is basically the most basic comparison operators. Here we have the decrement slash increment operators right there, and these operators will basically increment or decrement your variables values, okay, as you want them. This one will this one is pre-increment, and this is the post increment, and this is the pre-decrement, and this is the post decrement right there. So this one will increment your value and then returns, and of course the variable x right here represents any kind of variable, just a symbol representation for a number. Okay, and this one right here will return the value and then increment it, and this will decrement your value and then return it, and the last one, which is the post decrement, will decrement your will return your value and then decrement it. Okay, it's kind of confusing when you see it at first, but when you try a bunch of examples, it will clear out any confusion. Okay, and let me try out some examples. Let me create my variable right there. Let's set it to 10, and if we echo out the pre increment for it, it will be plus plus, and then the variable name, it will return 11. Okay, it will only increment it by comment this and try the post increment num. Okay, and just like that, it will return only 10, because it will return the value and then increment it. Okay, so if we go to our third one, let me comment this out, and if we go right here for the post decrement, echo was and num, just like that, and it will give us 9 because the post the pre decrements this value right there and then return it. And if we go to our last operator, echo out num, subtraction sign, two subtraction signs, and then just end it with a semicolon right there. This will give us the 10 as it is, because it returns the value, okay, and it will increment it. So this is it for the decrement and increment operators. They're really easy. The most famous scenario for using them is going to be in the loops, which we will discuss later. Conditionals. And conditionals are basically a way of performing some certain actions based on some certain conditionals, okay, or based on some certain condition. We have right here, we have two kinds, two ways of performing conditionals, which will be if else, if else statement, and the switch statement, which we'll be looking into in the next lecture. So let's take a look at else, else if, else right here, and see its syntax. Okay, it will be something like this. If, and here our condition. Okay, if I'm getting it right, and here is the action that we want to provide. Okay, just like this. Okay, so this is it for the syntax of the if condition, and now we want to do some example right here so we can demonstrate better what's, how it really works and what we should know about it. So if we go over here and create some variable, let's call it age, and will be 12, and here we need our condition. Let's say this is a real world scenario and we're creating a website where users cannot be in if their if their age is 12. Okay, now we're going to perform this when, let's say, if age, which is the variable, is equal to 12, we were using right here what we've learned in the operators section, is equal to 12. We want to show the user a message that they should not be here. Okay, we will echo out, you shouldn't be here. Okay, and let's save this, and there you go, you should not be here because the age is actually 12. Okay, so here is our condition, and here is the action that we want to perform. Okay, so this is basically it. Consider it a real world scenario. Consider this also, this scenario when you try to log into one of your social media accounts, and if you entered one of your, let's say, your password wrong, it will redirect you back to the login page and tell you that you wrote it wrong, display some message that your credentials are not right, and you need to enter them again. Okay, so you enter them right and you go back to the home page. So basically programming is all about checking on some values, or based some actions, perform some actions based on conditions. Okay, this is all programming right there. So if we want if the user age is not 12 and we want to show another message to them, we need to use the else statement. Okay, now let's say we echo out, let's echo out something like you're welcome here. Okay, and in this, and else works like this. If this one is false, if this condition right here is false, it will echo out this action right here. Okay, and if we save this and if we refresh it, of course nothing will be happened because this condition right here is true. But let's say the user age is actually 13. Let's say he actually entered the value and his age is 13. We're gonna save this and refresh. Now you get your welcome right here because this statement right here is false. The user age is not 12, it's 13 right there. Okay, so this is it for if else. Now if we want to perform some other condition, we can use the else if right there, okay? And it goes like this. Sorry. Else if. Okay. And we need to get this up right here. Okay, so this is else if, which will take another condition right there. Let's say the user age is 12, okay? Age equals, not 12, I meant 18. 18, okay. Go out your 18, you're perfectly welcome. If I'm getting perfectly right, actually I got it wrong. No, I suck at writing text. All I can write is code. Okay, so you're 18, you're perfectly welcome right here. And else if gives us some more freedom to write another condition right there. Okay, if this one is true, it will execute this. Okay, if this is true, it will execute this action right here. If both of them are wrong, the else statement will be executed. Okay, and if we save this, go back right here, and of course nothing happens because this is not the age is not 12 and it's not 18. Okay, so this one will be executed. Of course we can switch, we can change this to whatever we want. Let's say this is 18 and see what happens. You might guessed it, and you're right, you're 18, you're perfectly welcome. So this one will be executed because the age of the user is actually 18. Okay, you can switch this around whatever you want, but you get the idea. This is the core of programming. I would say this is one of the most important constructors you will ever learn, and of course it's in any programming language. So this one is going to be about switch, and switch is basically like if, but a little bigger, and allows you to choose between a lot of options, just like if. Okay, so if I get this over here and paste it, let me comment this out. We selected all, control and slash. Okay, so the syntax of switch is a little bit hard, but once you write it a lot, or once you get used to it, it will be very easy for you. So let me create a variable first. Let's set it to favorite color, and we'll keep this to black. Okay, this is my favorite. And syntax of switch, something like that, switch, and then open our parentheses right there, and we want to put our variable, the variable we're working on, or whatever constructor we're working on, and open our curly braces, and here we have three, each block will be three different keywords, or 3 lines. Each block will be around 3 lines, which goes like this. The first one is case, which is the condition, and the value right there. Let's say the case is red, and the colon, and the second line will be the action. Let's say we want to equal out your favorite color is red and semicolon, of course, and we want to break the statement right there. Okay, so break and a semicolon. So this is, you know, a block in switch. This is the most basic one we're seeing here. If the value of this variable right there is red, we will display this message right here: your favorite color is red, and we are going to break this statement. Now let me put another case. Let's say this is green. I'm going to equal out your favorite color is green and a semicolon, and we are going to break this. Okay, so you can add as many as many cases as you want, or as many statements as you want, but I'm going to go to the last one, which is default, which should be the last statement. If all of them are basically false, this one will be triggered, which is the default one. We are going to equal out your another color, or whatever message you want it to be. Okay, so this is basically it. Switch, and then the variable we want to play with, we want to base our whole condition on, and case, which is going to be the condition right there, and the action after case, and then break the whole thing. So if this is the right answer, or this condition right there is true, it will break the whole thing, and it will not check those two, and case green. And this block right here is basically like the one above, but with the green value, and this right here will be triggered, the default one, if those two are false. Okay, so a simple example right there, and I'm going to save this, and I'm in my file right there. If I refresh this and say you like another one, because this makes total sense, because the variable right here has a black has a value of black. Okay, so if I go and switch this to black like that, and we need to also change our value right there. If we now save this, now your favorite color is black. So you can see how easy this is. You just need to play around it a little bit, do some examples. Switch is very easy. It sounds like a little bit hard in first, because it contains a lot of reserved words like that, default, case, and break, and all of that. But I would say you will use if else like 98% of the time. I won't touch switch all that that much. All you need to know about loops. So what are basically loops? Loops are a certain piece of code that allows you to repeat your code over, or you repeat a certain block of code over and over again. Okay, instead of just writing the same code over and over, loops will basically execute this code as long as a certain condition is true. Okay, so this is basically what loops are. They're really important. You are going to use them a lot. Okay, I can assure you they are really crucial, and they are as important as a control structure or if statements. Okay, So we have, you know, a certain number of loops, okay, certain kinds of loops. So we have the while and the for loops. Okay, so in this one we are going to start working with while, and while basically executes a code as long as a certain condition is true. Okay, so I just wanna write the syntax first. We have three things to work with loops, and the first one is the initialization. I'm not sure if I'm writing this the right way, but you know, you'll get it. But you know, you'll get it. I can't write these big words. I just like to write code. I'm not a, you know, I'm not a big writer. Okay, but you get it. So the initialization first, and then right over here the condition. Okay, and over here will be the increment. Okay, or the decrement, just like that. Okay, so this is it. Just three things to work with any loops, actually, with especially while and for. We have three things: the initialization, the condition, and the increment. Okay, so the initialization, it's a convention. As you know, the initialization is just a variable, so the condition is to, you know, name it. Sorry, the convention is to name it as an I. Okay, so if we set this to 0, and we go right here to while, okay, and we set our condition, so we are seeing right here I, while I is, you know, is bigger than, you know, is less, actually less than, you know, less or equal to 10, we want to execute this I. Okay, we are going to echo out I just right there. Okay, so this is basically the simplest loop you can ever write. You know, it can get really complicated, but we're just starting right here. So this is the initialization. You can set this to any name you want, you know, but it's just a convention right here, right there. We are setting this to 0. So, and we are seeing right here the condition is while the I is less than or equal to 10, echo out, you know, the numbers right there. Okay, so let me echo and br, and if I go ahead to my browser and my file right there, and there you go, we have our numbers right there. Okay, we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 0. If we go back right there, so what basically happens when the interpreter comes into your script, it will read this and it will check the I. If the I is less, you know, or is less than 10, is less than or equals 10, it will echo out this I right there. It will increase it by 1. So when it comes in and say the I equals 0, okay, now the I is equal or less than 10, it will echo out this 0 right there, and it goes back again. If the I is 1, you know, the I is still less than 10, okay, it will print it out, and so on. Okay,
till it gets to the value of 10 right there. But if we remove this and save, and you can see right here it doesn't give us 10, it gives us from 0. I don't know why this 0 should be here. I don't know why it's right there. Okay, but you know, it's there. If we, you know, if we removed like just we did, if we remove the equal right there, it will not print the 10 because it's only, you know, we only need to print the I, or to equal out the I right there if it just less than 10, okay, and not 10 itself. So this is basically the while loop. If we try one with a decrement, if we, let's say, set this to 20, and we go over here and we change this to the I is greater than, and let's leave this as 10. You know what, let's set it to 0. This is a simple example. And if we go over here and try this to decrement and save out and refresh, you can see over here it gives us the values from 1 right there to 90. Okay, and what basically happened is now it's going to check in. The I now is 20, and it's going to check on the condition. Now if the I is 20, it's, you know, bigger than or greater than 0, so it will print the 20 right there. Sorry, it's not going to print the 20, it will print the 90 first. And now if the I is 90, now the I is 90, it's going to check in on the I right there. The I is still greater than, you know, still greater than 0. It will decrement it again, and it will be 18, and it goes back again. The I now is 18, it goes over here. The I is still greater than the 0, and now it will decrement it, which gives us the 17, and it works until we have the, you know, the 20 or 1 right there. Okay, so this is basically it. You know, just do a couple examples and play with the code a little bit. It's really easy when you think about it. We have the initialization, the condition right there, and the increment or the decrement. So this is basically what while loop is, and in the next one we are going to take a look at for loops. But before I do that, I just want to point out a simple honest mistake I did. You know, when in the last script, or in the last video, this 20 right here should be at the top right there. So what I actually did is printing the decrement right there, and what I should be doing is printing out the actual I itself. Okay, if we, let me add some text, number is, and the BR should be in the same line. Okay, and this should be it. If I actually leave it like that, it will do a for loop. Sorry, it will do you know, an infinite loop, and you don't want to do an infinite loop. It will break the website. It will, you know, stop the browser and maybe stop your whole computer, and we have to reset it back. So we actually have to end this with the decrement. Okay, never ever forget it. So this should be it. I should be echoing out the actual I, not the decrement. Okay, if we save this and now refresh back, you can see over here that we got our 20 right there. Okay, so this is it for while, and now to for loops. So for is basically a while, but it has some difference, which is it will print the block of code based on a certain number. Actually, in in a lot of scenarios, or the most scenarios will be using for when you know how many times your code should be repeated. Okay, so it's really simple. It's really similar to while. Now we need to start our initialization right there. We are going to set this to 0 just to start with a simple example. And yeah, you can put your initialization variable right there in the parentheses. Okay, you can put it in while and for, whatever you want. And let me do the condition, or the test condition, or the test counter, as you want to name it. And now the I is less than, it will not take our spaces, less than, let's say 20 also. It's less than or equal 20, and to the last one, which will be the decrement itself. Okay, plus plus, and we need to echo out that I. Okay, let's say value, may get some quotations or some codes, value is, and echo the I right here. Of course, we don't need the decrement, because we already put it up there. If we save this and go back to our browser, and you can see right here, it just needs some new line, so it can look better. And there you go, from 0 to 20 right there. So what basically happened, just like while, if your interpreter will go over here, it will not affect anything, but let me comment it out, because we need to initialize it right there. Okay, the for loop will basically says that, the interpreter will come in here and see the I is already 0, and it less than 20, so it will print it up right there, and it will go back again, and hey, the I is still 0, so it's still less than, or it's still less than 20, so it will increase it by 1, and it will, now it's 1, and it will print this one out, and we'll go back again, the I is 1, and it is still less than 20, and so we need to increase it by 1, and now it will echo it out as 2, and till it gets to 20. And if we go and remove the equal right there, it will not print the 20, because when it gets to 19, it will the loop will basically stop, because we need to get it just less than 19, not equal to less than 20, and not equal to 20. Okay, just based on our condition right here, we can do anything with it. So the decrement will basically the same thing as we did in the while right there. So this is it for loop.